Hey there, I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. You can find me on the Twitter/X machine, on Instagram, on Threads, on YouTube, all those spots at the Ray Flowers. You can also obviously find my work at fantasyguru.com. You can see it behind me. Kind of continuing to wrap up things for the 2023 season. Going to discuss the playoffs a little bit, kind of where we're at in terms of how games are being handled, what scheduling should potentially look like moving forward. Going to give some ideas on that. Hopefully you're enjoying what we have to offer at fantasyguru.com on the football side of things as well. If you want to get involved in the NFL DFS package or the NFL betting package, use the promo code NFL30, NFL30, get you a discount to sign up there. We also have basketball, hockey just ready to get underway for you there. So check us out over at fantasyguru.com. Okay, so interestingly, the other day, I saw a little blurb come across on Twitter, X. So dumb that we changed name. Now we're changing the way things are tagged, like for links and stuff. It's going downhill continually. But the bottom line is there was a tweet that went out that Don Larson today, Don Larson threw his perfect game against the Brooklyn Dodgers in the World Series, 1956. We all kind of know that, right? It was October 8th. They were in the World Series on October 8th. It's now October, what day is today? 9th. We're not even close to the World Series. And this brings up the continual discussion that we have about the length of the Major League Baseball season, the length of the playoffs, all this kind of thing. So let's dive into that a little bit here at fantasyguru.com. I think that ideally they would scale back the regular season. 162 games is long, and it's been 162 games for a long time, but we could scale this thing back to 154 games, 144 games. We could lop off 10 games. We could do something to improve things here. The real problem with that is I don't know what the appetite is for the owners to do that. Because they will lose profits. They will lose, gates and revenues at the turnstiles, if you will. Another problem that has been brought up as this has been discussed is the Players Association said, look, you can do whatever you want in terms of the schedule. We're not giving you money back. You're paying us for 162 games. We're not going to scale our payback and say, well, we're going to pay 154 games. Well, lop off the pay of those extra 8 games. They're not doing that. So I don't know if there really is much ground to be made up there in the difference. I don't think the average fan would care if it was 154 games. I don't think the players would care. I don't think the owners would necessarily care. Yeah, they'd still care. So there's the rub. I just don't know if there's a way to shorten the season up. And I bring that up because we get into this time of year. We're in October, and basketball and hockey are getting going. Football's in full swing. And like I said, we still got weeks left of the baseball season. And if you're a hardcore baseball fan, you're in. I get that. But you're not capturing many fans that aren't already in because people are doing everything else. They're getting ready for the basketball season or the hockey season, or they're following their football team. It's hard, not to mention, as we get deeper into the playoffs, the weather continues to get worse. If you're in a stadium, it doesn't matter. If you're playing on the West Coast, it doesn't matter. But a lot of these games end up being played on the East Coast at night, and there are issues, and we see it happen a lot. So, there's also been let me say it this way. I don't think we're likely to see a reduction in games played in the regular season, at least in the short term. I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe they negotiate that in the next collective bargaining agreement. I will say, though, that I personally have a problem, and I know some people do as well. Some people don't seem to care. But I've said this for a while. When Major League Baseball went from an AL league and an NL league and basically interleagued everything, I still haven't paid for an interleague baseball ticket my entire life. When they did that, they kind of diminished baseball, and because baseball had been different. It was AL, it was NL, and you had to meet in the championship game, right? It's not like that in the other sports, and it's not like that in baseball anymore. So what they've done is they've balanced the schedule out. You're playing everyone, all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. What that does practically is that it creates a season that's extremely long. It creates a season that lasts forever, and it creates a season that goes into the playoffs. So we have 162 games played, which is the longest grind. Baseball is twice as long as hockey and basketball. It's, 10 times as long as football, roughly. So why is it that the playoffs are so short? And if you think about it this way, 3-game series to start the playoffs in baseball, right? 162 games, a 3-game series is barely, 2%? Something like that, of the regular season. In order for us to get 2% of the football season, meaning let's have the playoffs in football match the playoffs in baseball in terms of the percentage of games played we're actually getting in the series, 17 games, obviously, in the NFL, we'd have to play the first week of the playoffs. The wildcard round in the playoffs would have to be less than half a game. No one would do that. So why are we doing that in baseball? I don't think any series in the postseason should be shorter than 5 games. In fact, I think they should all be 7 games. Now, this was fine when we had two series. Now we've extended this out. We've added teams to the playoffs. We've changed the divisional format. Like, I don't know how they fix this, because baseball shouldn't be played in November. It just shouldn't be. Not only that, it's bad for the product. It doesn't grow the product. It's not good for the players. These guys play so long into the calendar that they don't get any time off. They end up getting injured the next year, or struggling to start the year, or their training methods are messed up, all these kind of things. So we end up in a scenario where, who are the winners? Well, the winners are the players because they make money. The winners are the fans because we get games long term. But we also run into scenarios where I don't think the results match. Now, I'll say this in the fantasy space. I don't like head-to-head, because you can be a great team for 23 weeks, week 24 rolls around, your team struggles, you come in second place. Some people love that. They like the idea. They say, look, it's that way in pro sports too, especially baseball. For me, I want the best team to be the winner, or at least have a chance to win. And in baseball in particular, we're playing 10 times as many games as we are playing in football, or double the games in hockey and basketball. The season is so long and important. Why are the playoffs so short? It should at least be representative, right? So if it's 6% in football, roughly, 1 game for 17 regular season, our playoff series need to be longer than 3 games, because again, that's 2% of the games. They have to at least be 7-game series to be equal to what the other sports do. And remember, in hockey, it's 7 games the whole way through. So, basketball, they got longer playoff series. So, they have play-in games and all this crap. So all the sports are doing it. I get it. I understand it. But at the end, I just don't think it makes for the best experience in terms of the team that deserves to be there getting there. Now, what also happens when we go to the playoffs in baseball, whether it's a 3-game, 5-game, 7-game series, we'll move beyond that idea for a second. There's been a lot of up and down and arguments and back and forth about Jose Barrios being pulled the other day, 3 shutout innings, or gave up 1 run. What was it? He was pitching very well, 5 strikeouts in 3 innings, threw 47 pitches. And the Blue Jays pulled him out of the game, and they went to Kikuchi in a series of relievers, and it didn't work, and they lost. And, it's one of those moves that at the time, Jose Barrios I think he signed a $130 million contract. He's been one of the more stable right-handed pitchers in baseball for the last handful of years. You got him pitching in the playoffs. He's rolling. Why are you taking him out of the game? And this is a problem that we've talked about here at fantasyguru.com for years now. It's spreadsheet baseball. And spreadsheet baseball is great when it works, but when it doesn't work, you've got 150 years roughly of baseball being played. And, there's advantages to be gained if you're using scientific models, if you're using spreadsheets. There's definitely advantages you can gain there. But at the end of the day, you still got to play the game. And I have always said this. This is a consistent theme that I have brought up at fantasyguru.com for years. When we're talking about rolling through pitchers, you never know what the guy coming in from the bullpen has that day. Guys will tell you all the time, my bullpen was terrible. I got in the game and I couldn't miss. Guys will tell you my bullpen was great. I got in the game and I couldn't throw a strike. This happens all the time. You know what you have in Barrios because he's out there doing it. He's having success. He's rolling along. Why are we turning it over to the bullpen? Especially a guy like Kikuchi, who was a starter all season long. Why? It's because of the spreadsheet. And it's very interesting what's happened in Toronto. I want to read a couple quotes here. It's very interesting what's happened here. Manager John Schneider said the following, quote, "There are a lot of numbers involved and there are a lot of opinions involved," unquote. Okay, well, Ross Atkins, the GM, then came out and basically said, look, that's his decision. We're not, because there's a lot of this back and forth. But how much is it the manager's decision? How much is it the front office? Here's what the GM of the Blue Jays said about the situation. Quote, "Those meetings are John Schneider's meetings. He has a staff that gives him the info he's asking for. We're not funneling into his decision-making. John Schneider made the decision to deploy that," unquote, meaning the decision to change from Barrios to Kikuchi. So the GM came out and said it wasn't us. And it's unseemly to have this in public because, this should be behind private. This is not, it's not the GM's fault. It's not the manager's fault. Well, right. It's someone's fault, not the player's fault. I don't think really. But anyway, I don't know if it's the best way to handle this in public. Obviously, Jays fans are extremely disappointed. The team is extremely disappointed. They expected more. They've expected more for a couple years now, and it hasn't really happened. But this is what occurs in the postseason. We see teams change up, strategies. We're seeing batting orders shifted. There's a report the other day, Marcell Ozuna's playing an interleague game, playing at first base. He's never played first base in a game. Prep a guy for the game. Okay, that's fine. Why are the Braves changing their batting order? I don't know what's going on. So teams are they look for every little advantage, and it's gotten to the point where it's gone too far, in my opinion. You might disagree. Leave me a thought or comment below in the Discord at fantasyguru.com, but I think it's gone too far. And I'd like to see the game played in more of a straight manner. And that leads into the next piece of information here. The other day, the Phillies had a shutout against Atlanta, 3-0. Great game. Started with Ranger Suarez, and in the end, they had 7 pitchers. They threw 7 pitchers. Now, the Braves are dynamic. Now, I guess if there's a team you want to play the balancing act of what does the spreadsheet say or not against them, it's the Braves. But they used 7 pitchers to throw a shutout. That was the 3rd time that has happened in a postseason shutout ever, which I think is 3 times too many. Can you imagine the days of Steve Carlton or Jack Morris letting 7 pitchers throw for them? But anyway, this is where we're at now. And this is also a problem that we deal with in baseball at this point in the calendar. And I don't mean this year, I just mean in the calendar of 2023 baseball, is that teams are very much tied to the spreadsheet. And I think one of the main reasons why it does give you an advantage, whether it's 1%, 5%, 9%, it gives you an advantage. So they do it. But 2, and I don't know how much of it is this, but I can always argue, well, I made move A or B. Ray, they come to me after the game. Ray, why did you make that move? Well, I made move A because look at this, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I made move B because X, Y, Z. And I can give you the numbers. I can give you the 3rd time through the order. And on the 2nd day when the sun is up over 12% degrees in the declination, I don't know, I'm making stuff up. But you get the point. I can defend my move if I can hold up the spreadsheet and say, here it is. 64% of the time this works. So I wonder, and I really wonder this, and because again, I'm someone that I play the odds frequently in sports, and not in a gambling sense, but when you're looking at A or B, part of the factor of decision of who to start on a certain day or who to go with at a certain matchup, part of that is history, part of that is where everyone's located at the time, and part of that is playing the odds. What is most likely to happen? So I understand teams, managers wanting to do that, but it does take out to some degree the inherent fuzziness, the inherent white noise of sports. And it's something that always, whether we're talking fantasy football or fantasy baseball, it's something I always come back to. No one has figured this out. No one will ever figure this out. It's just not possible. Are we closer today in 2023 than we were in 2013? 100%. Are we closer than in 2003? Probably 200%, which is not possible, but you get my point. Like, we're closer than ever before to figuring out how this works, but you can never figure it out. It's just not the way it works. Sports aren't that way. Otherwise, we would just play simulations, micro league baseball it up, and then we'd have winners. That's not how the sports are played. So do you like that? Again, leave me a comment. Do you mind? Because again, I've stated my case many times. I don't like 7 pitchers for a shutout. You needed 7 pitchers to get a shutout. Is that really where we're at this season? And that brings up another point when we talk about this. Like, we get to this point in the playoffs, and I don't know about you, but I'm watching in the last couple of years, watching a World Series, and I'm seeing pitchers that have thrown 12 innings in the season. Is that what we want? Now, there's no real way around this, and part of this is because the season is so long, both in calendar and in terms of games played. Guys can't stay healthy. Guys break all the time. Guys are constantly getting hurt, especially on the mound. So we end up at a point, the season is so long, it's been extended so far that we have players pitching with the season on the line that were nobodies during the regular season. We have guys taking at bats in the postseason that were spare pieces during the regular season. Maybe that's the beauty of the game, and there is some part of that. Bucky F. and Dent, right? Isn't that what it is with the Red Sox and the Yankees? But is that how you want it? Ideally, no. And I think we've gotten to the point where, it's not. We've got to the point where it's just too much. I don't want some 22-year-old kid with 19 professional innings, pitching Game 7 of World Series. Like, do you? So again, leave me your thoughts on that. But I think this is just a natural outgrowth of how teams are using their bullpens, their staffs. We see this all the time come the playoffs. Guys made 192 consecutive starts over the last 8 years. And what do? He's in the relief. He's coming out of the bullpen in Game 3. Okay, you got to win a game. I get it. You put guys in situations where they're not accustomed to having success. It's also difficult. And I think a lot of people on the servers forget the importance of actually being involved as a player. Can a guy who plays second base play shortstop? Absolutely. The talent is there to do that. Sure. Doesn't mean he can do it as well, but sure. But you got to remember, it's totally different. You might change your glove. Your footwork is totally different. The way you throw the ball is totally different. The way the ball comes off the bat is totally different. Your responsibilities for covering bases is totally different. The pop-ups are, the ball spins differently if it's from on that side of second base or that side of second base, depending upon the lefty rightiness of the batter. So there's a lot of changes. You know, the guy, oh, he's a third baseman, we'll stick him in the outfield. Okay, but it's not that easy. You've made 30 starts for this year with 0 relief innings. 0. You haven't come out of the bullpen one time. We're in game 3 of the playoff series. You're coming in on the bullpen. It's still throwing strikes. But it's different. And athletes do get into rhythms, and it's only sensical, right? Let's make sense. It's only sensical to put players in positions where they previously had success, right? That gives them the best opportunity to have further success. So anyway, maybe I'm belaboring the point here, but that's kind of where I'm at with that. The final piece of information I wanted to talk about, and this one is really unfortunate because Clayton Kershaw is going to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best pitchers of the modern era, and I think we can make an argument, one of the greatest left-handed pitchers of all time. Now, would that have been the case if he pitched in 1950? I don't know. His career might have ended like Sandy Koufax early. He may physically not have been able to do this. He's had all kinds of doctors and all kinds of, a lot of things have helped him now, modern day science, that necessarily wouldn't have helped him back in the day. But the bottom line is he's going to the Hall of Fame, and he is one of the greatest left-handed pitchers ever. And he had a game the other night that was terrible. Here's the actual number. He became the 3rd pitcher ever. Mike Foltynewicz, Gil Heredia. Talk about teams being desperate in the playoffs. Mike Foltynewicz, Gil Heredia. Clayton Kershaw became the 3rd pitcher to allow 6 earned runs in an outing with 1 out. Clayton Kershaw has never been worse in his life, I'm going to say. Going back to being 5 years old, I'm going to say he was never worse in his life than that outing. And it happened in the playoffs. And here come he sucks, he can't win the big one stuff. Now, let's remember what we've been talking about this entire little video here for fantasyguru.com. We've been talking about the length of the season. I just mentioned the fact that Clayton Kershaw is continually hurt, right? He's continually dealing with things. We talked about it in an earlier version of the postseason. I think it was in the top 50 pitchers. I don't think he's thrown, 130 innings the last 3 years, 135 innings. He's been under that mark each of the last 3 full seasons. He doesn't throw a lot of innings. So now we're taking a guy who throws 125 innings a season anymore, and we're asking him to pitch in the playoffs. The most important games of the season, at the very end of the season, when he's already extended himself as far as he can pitch. So I think part of that fact that he's struggled in the postseason is because he's not a guy, for better or worse, that's throwing 230 innings a season continually. He's done in the past. He's had those huge seasons. But as he's gotten older in particular, he's a 130 inning guy. And if we're pushing him beyond that with playoff innings, that's tough. So part of this is tough. Part of the fact that you might struggle versus the regular season as well is that, you're not getting to face the crap. You're not facing the Pirates all the time. You're facing good teams. You're also facing teams with managers that might pull you earlier than you would if it was a regular season game. You might get a chance to work through things and go 6 innings and give up 3 runs. In the postseason, you give up 3 runs in 3 innings, you're out, right? Because you got to win now. So you don't have the ability to throw those 3 following innings to bring the numbers back down because you figured out, you found your curveball, your changeup, or whatever it might be. So I think part of that is also what's going on with Kershaw. And then part of it is that he's been so unbelievable during the regular season that it's easy to look at his struggles in the postseason and say, well, he sucks when it matters most. And here are the numbers. His ERA has gone up 2 full runs, legitimately 2 full runs in the playoffs, from 2.48 to 4.49. Okay. Terrible. But his whip has gone up a tenth. It's gone from 1.00 to 1.11. 1.11 is still pretty damn good, right? You can make the Hall of Fame with a whip of 1.11. Okay. His 4.4 strikeout to walk ratio for his career is 4.2 in the playoffs. Basically the same, right? Okay. Now let's go to his winning percentage. 695, again, all-time elite for the regular season. Just off the charts good. 500 in the postseason. So even though his ERA has gone up 2 full runs, he's still got a 500 winning percentage. Has he been worse in the playoffs than the regular season? Yes. But again, that's the very nature of it. You're throwing 18 innings here. You're throwing 11 innings here. You're throwing 130 innings here. You're throwing 180 innings here. Pitchers take the hill sometimes and they just don't have it. A lot of pitchers will say, if I make 30 starts, 10 times I'm dynamite, 10 times I'm horrible, and 10 times in the middle I'm trying to figure it out. Okay? Well, what happens in the playoffs if you only get to make 1 start instead of 3? And what happens if it's the terrible one? And then the next time you get a start in the playoffs, it's the middle one. And then the next time again, you get a terrible one. Well, now you're 0-3 in the playoffs. Your ERA is 8, and you look like a choker in the postseason. But maybe the next 5 times that you get out there, they're all the good ones. And you go 4-1 and your area's 3-1, and all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe. So remember, sample size has a big part to do with this too. So I don't like the Dodgers. I'm a Giants fan. I've told the story previously. My grandfather legitimately brought me a Giants baseball hat to the hospital when I was born. I'm named after him. I'm the third. So I had a Giants hat in the hospital the day I was born. I don't like the Dodgers. I wouldn't say hate because but I hate the Dodgers. Okay. Of all the teams in sports, Dodgers. I got to respect and love Clayton Kershaw, and I hope you do too. And I hope that at least when you're analyzing him and you're not at a bar, on a Friday night after your 6th beer, oh, Clayton Kershaw sucks in the postseason. Think about it a little bit more. Has he been better in the postseason than the regular season? No. Has he been worse? Absolutely. Has he been awful? Does he deserve to have his reputation and career tarnished because of it? No. And if you're in that boat, I hope you consider changing things. So again, thanks for listening to fantasyguru.com. We'll have a couple more articles, podcasts, something this week as we kind of wrap up the 2023 season. Don't forget to use that promo code NFL30 for a discount on the NFL betting package and the NFL DFS package at fantasyguru.com. Follow me at the Ray Flowers all over the place. Listen to the Elite Sports Show Monday through Friday from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern. Oh, excuse me. What time is it? It's 12 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. It's 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. I should get it right. The Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio with Jeff Manns, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. I always mess that up, right? Do you do that too? The time changes always get me. I'm on Wednesdays, by the way, with Jeff from 3 to 5. You can hit us up in Discord over at the site. Rob Povey and myself are still in Discord answering questions for baseball. The entire crew is servicing all the football product as well. And again, basketball, hockey, all going there over at fantasyguru.com. Join the family. We try to have fun, try to be informative, and try to help you win a little bit. So thanks for listening to this. I was going to say podcast. I'm so used to doing it. This video that I hopefully made some sense in and didn't bore you to death while you're watching it. At least that's the goal. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Ray Flowers for fantasyguru.com.